Hello, fellow patriots, and welcome to the Freedom Independent News Network, where we are determined to bring you the truth behind all the lies. Now, this is our first video, so welcome. And look what we have here. You couldn't ask for a more better story than this, folks. Our President, Donald J. Trump, has the coronavirus. Now, I've read a little bit on it. His symptoms are rather mild, more like a cold than anything. Of course, if you listen to the left-wing media, oh God, he's dying. He's so old and overweight that it's just he's going to kill over any second now. Don't believe the lies, folks. Trump, he's too stubborn to be taken down by this crap. I mean, honestly. This is the guy who just went non-stop at the debate the other day. I mean, poor old Joe Biden couldn't handle anything he threw at him. Who won the debate? Trump did, but I won't say just by a little. You know, there's an old saying, you give someone enough rope and let them hang themselves. You know, don't ban me YouTube, that's just a saying. No ill intent meant, but you know, Trump didn't give Biden any time to really gaffe like he has been, to stumble or mumble over himself. He had a few little mumbles here and there, but I'm just completely amazed that the man made it for over an hour and a half. You know, he was still standing at the end and somewhat coherent. Trump won, but he came across as being a big bully, and he should have been a bit more professional. I mean, personally, I like Trump. I like the way he goes on Twitter and, just goes after people and just doesn't really hold anything back anymore. A lot of the elderly people don't like it. They think he should be prim and proper and, professional. He's a person just like the rest of us. I like that he's not so politically correct all the time. He's a person. He's a businessman. He's not a politician. And that's one thing I really liked about him whenever he got first elected, is the fact that he can't be bought. The dude is filthy rich. He, all these other presidents and politicians and stuff, they can be bought. Somebody slips $500,000 or $1 million their way. Well, guess what? They'll tend to, side with them on certain issues and turn the head to the other. Trump, the guy's a freaking billionaire. What the heck does he need a daggone $1 million for? He'll make that in the daggone day. And that's one of the reasons why the politicians don't like him. He can't be bought. But anyway, let's go on to the coronavirus. Where he caught it from is kind of a mystery. Was it from one of the many rallies that he's had lately? Sure, could have been. Could also come from one of his staffers. Quite a few of them have tested positive lately. Don't know, but him and his wife have tested positive for it, so we'll just have to see how things goes. And let's go ahead and just click on something from good old CNN. What I call the Communist News Network. Let's see. CNN, a country already unnerved by a devastating health catastrophe and a turbulent political season, faced fresh upheaval Friday as Americans awoke to news President Donald Trump had contracted coronavirus. As of Friday morning, the president is in good spirits, but is experiencing mild symptoms related to COVID-19, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows told reporters. The president does have mild symptoms, Meadows said, describing him as very energetic. Hey, it's Trump. The great thing about this president is not only is he staying committed to working on behalf of the American people, I would say, Meadows said, we have a president that is not only on the job, will remain on the job, and I'm optimistic that he'll have a very quick and speedy recovery. I agree with that too. They are also saying that, his campaigns are put on hold, which that does make sense. But as far as the debates, they say average of 14 days, 2 weeks, and, you can be over the coronavirus. So the next debate is the 15th. So that puts it right at the very end of the window of getting it, or getting over it, I should say. Sorry, phone going off. But, I think that there can still be a debate. But I don't agree with them wanting to cut off his mics. Now, in my opinion, it'd be rather funny as... Gotta keep this kind of PG. But, it would be extremely funny if Trump were to have a personal microphone on his body with a little loudspeaker, hanging from his coat or something like that. So if they cut off his mic, he can just flick a little switch and then just keep on ragging on Biden. Now that would be like giving the establishment a kind of a middle finger there, I think. That'd be hilarious to see. But let's get back to the story. The president made the announcement of his positive test on Twitter at nearly 1 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday, and the development, after months of debilitating losses, set against a badly mismanaged federal response overseen by a commander-in-chief who reportedly downplayed the crisis. Threw fresh turmoil into the country's leadership at a moment of deep national strain. Now, that right there is just bullcrap. Yes, he downplayed it. Okay, no doubt. He admitted he did. But you know what? That's what a good leader does. If he would have come out and said, the coronavirus is very deadly, millions of people are going to die, what do you think would have happened? The country would have went insane. People would have started looting the streets, tearing down. I mean, it would have been utter chaos. Half the country would have been destroyed by now. We would all be under martial law. So you know what? Trump did a good thing by downplaying how bad it was. Okay? Would you want to live sitting in your living room or cowering in your bedroom with a daggone shotgun in your hand, waiting for somebody to come bursting through the door and kill you for the little bit of food you have left in your pantry? I know I wouldn't. But you know what? That's the kind of stuff that could have happened if he would have come out and said, it's very deadly, lots of people are going to get sick and die. Leaders do that all the time. It's keeping your nation calm and collected. When people are calm, they're fine. When they're extremely stressed and afraid, they act very erratically and unpredictably. Look at what's going on now with all the riots. That's a whole nother video right there. But, yeah. Imagine the riots on steroids and all over the U.S. instead of just these select cities. Trump did the right thing, and they will not give him credit for it. In his announcement, Trump insisted, "We will get through this together." His wife, who also tested positive, wrote, "We are feeling good." But the optimistic outlook could hardly veil the pervading sense of destabilization setting in as the country struggles to emerge from a generation-defining crisis, just as its politics seem to deteriorate into new lows. Stock market futures tumbled. Inside the White House, aides described a sense of panic as they worked to determine who else in the senior levels of government may have contracted the disease and whether the president, who falls squarely within the highest risk category for serious complications and who has been guarded about revealing details of his health, was displaying symptoms. Everything else I've read said they're very mild symptoms like a cold. This is what I mean. And even at his age and weight, he's not morbidly obese. He's a little chunky, but I mean, so am I. A lot of Americans are. He's not morbidly obese. He doesn't smoke, as far as I know. You know, he's rather healthy. I mean, for him to get up and campaign almost every daggone day and go sometimes to 3 different daggone states in one day, you know, the dude's got energy. You got to give him that. But they're making it seem like he's old and feeble. Nah. Now, if Biden contracted it, he'd probably be down within a couple of days and you'd never hear from him again. But Trump, he's going to bounce back. Like I said, he's too daggone stubborn to stay down. Trump appeared tired over the course of Thursday prior to testing positive for coronavirus, according to people who interacted with him, but was not displaying severe symptoms of the disease. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure he is tired. I mean, nobody is like the Energizer Bunny. They can't keep on going and going and going nonstop. And that's what he's been doing. You know, he ain't hiding in his basement like Biden is. He's actually out with the American people. A senior administration official said Friday that Trump wasn't showing major symptoms and planned to work from the White House residence. A White House official also said aides were looking at ways for Trump to speak to the nation on Friday, though no final decision had been made by mid-morning. Well, I'm sure he'll be he'll be tweeting up a storm as always, but yeah, it's good that he still wants to try to do what he can. You know, that's what you like to see, a president who still tries to do what he can when he's kind of feeling under the weather, unlike, you know, Biden, who wants to call a lid on things when, yeah, it's, what is it, 11, 12 days or something last month that he did it? Do you really want a president who can't get up and, you know, function in everyday life? I know I don't. I don't want a president who's constantly gaffing and mixing things up. According to him, he's spent the past 180 years as a politician. Yeah, let that one sink in. Let's see, where was I? Senior government, okay. Trump appeared tired of the quarter, read that. Senior administration official said Friday that Trump wasn't showing major symptoms and planned to work from the White House residence, read that. Senator Lindsey Graham, the South Carolina Republican who acts as an informal advisor to the president, said he spoke to Trump on Friday morning. The president was in good spirits, Graham said, adding he asked about the Supreme Court hearings. Yeah. I don't know how people feel about old Amy, but I'm for her. But once again, that's another video. Questions remained about why the president proceeded with his schedule on Thursday. Because it's Trump. Including flying to attend a fundraiser in New Jersey despite being in close contact with an aide, Hope Hicks, who was known by a small group of aides to have tested positive. Well, may have, but I heard that they tested negative, I believe. A person who attended the fundraiser in New Jersey said he seemed subdued when speaking to an indoor roundtable event and later to a group of supporters gathered outside. The person said the assumption among the attendees was that Trump was exhausted from recent campaign travel. Yeah, I don't believe him. I mean, I've been keeping up with it, and like I said, some days he's been in 3 different states in the same day. The man's a freaking machine. I mean, Trump is in his 70s. I'm 34, and he's got more energy than I do. Other people who have interacted with Trump said his voice sounded hoarse through the assumption before he tested positive was that it was because of his recent rallies. Yes, the man has been talking for an average of an hour to an hour and a half at his rallies. I mean, you talk all day long, you're bound to get, you know, a raspy kind of voice. Trump's roundtable occurred indoors and at a socially distanced table. Guests did not wear masks, but a person familiar with the matter said the attendees were tested ahead of time. A separate, larger event was held outdoors, with the president speaking from behind a podium set in front of the club's main doors. Most guests at the event also did not wear masks. Now, here's an assumption about masks. People think if you wear a mask that it's going to stop you from getting the coronavirus. No, it's not. Even some of the best masks, the N95 masks, which is what people have been buying in droves, will not protect you from the coronavirus itself. The virus itself is 0.03 microns in size. N95 masks only protect to 0.05 microns. It will not protect you from the virus. What they do is they stop people from spitting on each other. Believe it or not, whenever you talk, you do spit. It's just such a minute amount. You don't realize it, but you do. And that's what the masks prevent. It prevents you from spitting on other people and prevents them from spitting on you. Now, a hurried effort was underway to trace people who had interacted with the president over the course of the past days, including cabinet secretaries and senior West Wing officials. Both Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, senior advisors to Trump, tested negative for coronavirus Friday morning, the White House said. Barron Trump, the president and First Lady's 14-year-old son, tested negative for coronavirus, according to Stephanie Grisham, Melania Trump's chief of staff. But on Friday, the Republican National Committee said its chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, did receive positive test results on Wednesday. She has been at her home in Michigan since the weekend. Now, I gotta wonder how many times they were tested and how accurate these tests were and what they tested for. They tested just for the antibodies or for the virus itself. My mom knows people who went to one of these little free testing things that they had at a school or something like that. And they signed up. They signed the paperwork to get the test done. But they were in line and waiting for almost 2 hours. And they said, the heck with it, and went home. They never received the tests. 1 week later, they got mail stating that they both tested positive for the virus. How can you test positive for anything if you never had the test done? And these are people my mom know personally and trust. So I trust them as well. They showed my mother the paperwork. She said it was legit. I believe Trump when he comes out and says he has it, but, there's also maybe the little possibility out there that it's kind of conspiracy theory, but, it might be a false positive, and they might just be upplaying it exponentially because, it's Trump. I want to spread it around that he has a virus, and he possibly might not. It's... With everything else that they've done to Trump, it definitely would not be out the realm of possibility. Let's see. The first couple's positive diagnosis has caused ripples of anxiety inside the West Wing and the White House executive residence, where the Trumps are currently isolating. See, at least Trump is isolating and taking the proper precautions. Resident staff are nervous, a source familiar with the matter told CNN. Other staffers at the White House described deep concerns about political contagion. One White House official said White House staff were instructed to max telework, through other officials within the complex said they were still awaiting guidance as of 9 a.m. Staff learned of the diagnosis through tweets and the media, administration officials said, but have received no internal notices about it, even from the public health standpoint. We're all sitting around wondering, okay, now what? An official told CNN. In light of the president's positive test, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, who shared a stage with Trump in their first debate Tuesday, is expected to get tested for coronavirus Friday morning. According to a source familiar with his plans, he tweeted Friday morning wishing the president and his first lady a swift recovery. Vice President Mike Pence's press secretary on Twitter Friday morning confirmed that Pence and his wife Karen tested negative for the virus. Only hours before announcing his diagnosis, Trump told a virtual audience the pandemic was nearing an end. Cases are going down, places are opening up more. He says there's going to be a vaccine here soon, which lots of places are entering their final stages of it. I think it was 3 of them here in the U.S. have gone into stage or phase 3, whatever they call it. And, if they kind of hurry things along, which I'm kind of leery about because, that's going to be an injection or nasal spray or whatever they're going to do. It's not really the kind of thing you want to rush. But, I kind of understand the need to move things along a bit faster. The earlier people get vaccinated, the better things start getting quicker, at a quicker pace. But, I guess we'll see on that. I just want to say that the end of the pandemic is in sight, and next year will be one of the greatest years in the history of our country, Trump said during pre-recorded remarks given to the Al Smith dinner convened virtually this year because of the outbreak. If Trump is reelected, which, man, I hope he is, then yeah, we will be back on track to, getting back to the way we were before the whole daggone virus hit. And all these politicians are saying, this is the worst economy ever. It was beautiful during Obama's final years and Trump took over. Now look at it. No. Trump made this economy great. Jobs exploded. He had the lowest unemployment rate, I think, almost pretty much ever. Even among the black people, it was the lowest it's ever been. Then the coronavirus hit. That's not Trump's fault. You cannot blame the man for the coronavirus. My wife just found a job just the other day. Today is her second day. She got laid off a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, I should say, because her company went out of business. She was on unemployment for a while. Jobs were hard as to find. She finally found one and started work yesterday. The economy is coming back. I believe it is coming back in a V shape like Trump said. And unlike Biden, who said it's coming back in a K shape, which I don't know how a K would even, I don't know how that would even work. But, hey, this is Biden's logic. But the economy is coming back. If he is reelected, which, fingers crossed, then the economy will be back better than ever after this whole coronavirus thing starts to sizzle down and things become normal again. And they cannot blame Trump for the coronavirus, which is what they're trying to do. The man did almost everything he could to normalize things, but a lot of it is on these Democratic-run states and cities where everything is locked down. Look at New York. Perfect example. People leaving in droves because of all that. City is a big... it's a big hole in the ground, let's just say. Keep it PG. Let's see. His diagnosis, pandemic was coming here. Okay. 4 hours later, the president's schedule for Friday, which included a fundraiser in Washington and a campaign rally in Florida, was scrapped. The only remaining event will come at 12:15 p.m. when the president hosts a phone call on COVID-19 support to vulnerable seniors. Which that's a whole other daggone story in itself about what New York did to all those senior citizens. It was the first indication of how this year's presidential race will again be reshaped by surprise circumstances. This time, about a month before Election Day, Trump will likely be required to cancel a slew of scheduled campaign events next week, including in Arizona. Any attempt to shift attention away from the pandemic and his response, which has caused his poll numbers to plummet, now seem unlikely. Of course his poll numbers are plummeting. They're always plummeting. Jesus, if you believed all the freaking left-wing media sources, his polls should be just off the charts in the negative numbers. Trump should just concede and let Biden have the presidency. His poll numbers are so low. Yeah. Just remember, they said the same thing whenever 2016 election come along. We all know what happened then. Trump has repeatedly sought to downplay the pandemic. He told journalist Bob Woodward in February he wanted to always play it down, even as his administration's own health experts pleaded with Americans to take the virus seriously. Trump never said, "Don't take it seriously." He downplayed it to keep people calm. That's what a good leader does. Even as some of his closest global allies, including Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, came down with the disease, Trump continued to downplay it and shrug off the notion that he could have contracted himself. Anybody can contract it. Anybody. If you're a human being, you can contract it. More people have it than what the daggone numbers show because a lot of people are asymptomatic, meaning you get it, but you don't show any signs. You don't show any signs, you don't go get tested, so guess what happens? You have it, and you can still spread it. Now, it's a bit harder to spread when you're asymptomatic, but you can still spread it. All it takes is one good cough or sneeze or something in somebody's face. He has worn a mask very infrequently, and at Tuesday night's chaotic debate mocked Biden for wearing one so often. Instead of heeding recommendations about social distancing, Trump has convened large campaign rallies where his supporters stand shoulder to shoulder, often without masks, to hear him speak. Okay, they're going to condemn Trump rallies, but they absolutely refuse to condemn all the rioters and protests going on where there's hundreds of people doing it every single night. Most of them don't wear masks. Some do, but most don't. Not a single word is said about that. Just about Trump. Since the spring, Trump has pressured governors to allow businesses to reopen and has recently pressed for schools to allow in-person learning. He has rallied against restrictions on indoor churches and lambasted Democratic governors who continue to uphold rules against large gatherings. Through it all, Trump has insisted that the extensive testing regimen at the White House would protect him from contracting the virus himself. Anybody can get it. Tonight, as an example, everyone's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things you have to, he said during Tuesday's debate in explaining why masks weren't necessary in that setting. Well, they're kind of not. I mean, if you're social distancing and you're a good distance away from everybody, like I said, the masks aren't going to stop you from the virus itself coming through. It's just to keep people from spitting on each other. Yet the efforts of his staff to shield him from the virus clearly fell short. In a memo sent after midnight on Friday, the White House physician, Navy Commander Dr. Sean Conley, said Trump was well, though did not specify whether he was displaying symptoms. They plan to remain at home within the White House during their convalescence, he wrote of the President and First Lady. The White House medical team and I will maintain a vigilant watch, and I appreciate the support provided by some of our country's greatest medical professionals and institutions, Connolly went on, without elaborating what assistance was being provided to the White House doctors. The diagnosis amounts to the most serious known health threat to a sitting American president in decades, at least since President Ronald Reagan was non-fatally shot in 1981. Trump has not been particularly forthcoming with details of his physical health, including when he made a last-minute trip to Walter Reed National Medical Center last year. The White House said he was getting an early start on his physical exam, but declined to say what tests were performed at the facility. In a readout of his physical, Connolly said that this spring that Trump was in very good health, but listed a height and weight that placed him in the obese category. He is also known to have a common form of heart disease. A temporary transition of power from the commander-in-chief to the vice president is laid out in Section 3 of the 25th Amendment, a constitutional change brought on by the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It has been used periodically since when presidents are required to go under anesthesia for medical procedures. There were no indications that Trump was preparing to use the 25th Amendment. Well, I mean, if, he's not incapacitated anyway, then he really shouldn't. Rest assured, I expect the president to continue carrying out his duties without disruption while recovering, and I will keep you updated on any further developments, Connolly wrote in his memo. Pence wrote on Twitter, "We join millions across America praying for their full and swift recovery. If both Trump and Pence become unable to carry out their functions, the Presidential Succession Act designates the House Speaker as next in line." Asked in May whether the White House was making contingency plans to hand power to the Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany scoffed. "That's not even something that we're addressing," she said. "We're keeping the president healthy. We're keeping the vice president healthy, and, they're healthy at this moment, and they'll continue to be." The story has been updated with additional developments. Now, God help us all if Nancy Pelosi gets power. And here's something. I watch, people on YouTube like, Tim Pool, Sticks, Hex, and Hammer, people like that. And Tim brought up, it's probably been about a month ago since he last talked about it, Executive Order, I believe it was 51, where the president can take control over the entire government and restructure everything, as he sees fit from the ground up. I personally am thinking that maybe all of this is happening and they're trying to get the election delayed with all this mail-in voting bullcrap, which is blatantly proven to be fraudulent. But some places are giving up to 2 weeks after the election for mail-in ballots to be counted. That's bullcrap. But I'm thinking that they're hoping that the election gets drug on for so long that they don't have a clear winner, and then Pelosi takes over as president. And I'm wondering if that's not what's going to happen, and then she's going to enact Executive Order 51 to restructure the entire government as she sees fit. I'm not sure if she would even have the power to do that, but given their past actions, I would not put it past her to try. And if she did, and she did try to do that, then you're talking about Revolution 2.0, man. I mean, the whole country is kind of already at each other's throats, Democrats versus Republicans, and I mean, it's bad out there. And these little protesters are walking around out there chanting, "You can't stop the revolution." They don't know what a revolution is. They don't have a clue. They're out there playing dress up and playing soldier, thinking that they're actually doing something. They're not. They're just making themselves look like the little children that they are, the uneducated imbeciles. If real revolution come about, they would run screaming back home to mommy and daddy crying. These people don't know what a revolution is, and it just, God, it pains me to think that a lot of these are college-educated people. They're the future of our country. God help us all. But anyways, I think this video has gone on for quite some time. I will be making more later on today. I will be releasing them, a few hours after another. Doing more research into things as they come up. If something breaking happens, I will release it as quickly as I possibly can. If you guys like this kind of stuff, subscribe. It'll help the channel grow. Like the video, share it. It'll be just awesome. Future videos will be more condensed. I will make them shorter, not quite as long as this one is. More straight to the point. I just can't stand the way the country is going at this point. We all need to come together instead of just splitting apart. A lot of people want the democratic states to secede from the union. Okay, go for it. My plan has always been kind of, split the U.S. in half. Have the Republicans on one side, Democrats on the other, and after 10 years, Republicans have one president, their own elected, Democrats have their own elected. After 10 years, see which side is doing the best. That way which system works the best, and anybody with a functioning brain will be able to tell you without a shadow of a doubt which one works better. Freedom, communism, socialism, it's not really a comparison. But anyway, that's my first video. Like I said, if you like it, subscribe, share, and yeah, I'll release one in a couple more hours, I guess. So I will see y'all in the next video. Stay vigilant, America.